Hi, I'm your host Kelly Bowen, and you are listening to the Lifestyle Finance Australia show, which is dedicated to creating greater awareness about the power of leveraging finance when it comes to accelerating your growth and personal development. And we celebrate the hundreds of coaches, thought leaders, and game changers we support. This is a platform where you can meet some of the world's best experts in online business, trauma healing, digital marketing, relationship coaching, abundance and wealth creation, spiritual ascension, body healing, and wellness. So if you're looking for your next coach, healer, or mentor to take you on the next step in your journey, this is the show for you. Let's play. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle Finance Show. Today, I have an absolute legend with me. He has been key instrumental in the growth of my business this year. He's somebody I started working with him and he's like, you got to talk to Kelly, you got to talk to Kelly, you've got to talk to Kelly. And so for me to have him on the show and share him with you and some of the cool stuff that he does, it makes my heart feel so big and warm, because what this person does is magic, and he is doing some really outside of the box stuff at the moment that is just, it's polarizing, yet it's getting profound results, not just for him, but for his clients as well. So it's a privilege and an honor to have you on the show today, James. Welcome. And yeah, let's jump in. We were having some really cool conversations before. He's laughing.
Always the case.
Yeah. So James, tell me, let's pretend I don't know what you do. And for our listeners, if I was to just meet you for the first time, what is it that you do and what is the magic that you share with the world?
Well, Kelly, first of all, thanks for having me. And ladies and gentlemen listening, thank you all for having me, because, that's the most important thing. It's so epic to be here. And, I'm always excited to be in the presence of someone who is so passionate and is so energetic about what they do. And that's why as soon as you suggested to jump on the podcast, Kelly, I was like, hell yeah, I'll take time out of my Saturday to do that, because it's such an honor to be in your presence. And I just really want to make that known for everyone that's listening. She's the real deal. She really is the way that she comes across in the podcast. So, I'm so stoked to be here. And it's a great question. And recently, I found a really great way to answer this question.
Please do.
So there's a simple answer, right? Which is I'm the director of World Speaker Institute, and I do three core things. I do one-on-one mentorship for high-level entrepreneurs and people who speak from stage. I teach speakers, so I have my own speaker training that has a framework of spiral dynamics behind it. And I also teach sales as well. They're the three core areas I work in. But the best way to explain me is like this. Have you seen the movie Taken with Liam Neeson?
No, I haven't, but I'm sure some of our listeners have.
Interesting.
Don't let my not seeing it ruin this.
No, not at all. Your homework is to go and watch this so you can have a laugh.
All right. I'm writing it down.
I'm really confident that a large majority of the people know the 2008 movie Taken with Liam Neeson. There's a really famous scene in there, right? And for your context, Kelly, what happens is his daughter gets kidnapped and she gets taken to another country, and he gets a phone call from the kidnappers, right? And they tell him that they've got his daughter, and naturally he's like,
I've seen this.
You've seen it. He's like, it's 2008, so it's gone a while back.
Yeah, keep going.
And he says to them, and he gets on the phone and he says, if money is what you want, I don't have it. But what I do have is a very particular set of skills. And then, they exchange a few more. He says a couple more things, and then he says something along the lines of, and what I can tell you is I will find you and I will kill you. Now, I'm like that, except I'm not an assassin. But I'm an assassin when it comes to finding that one piece inside of each person I work with that they've been holding hostage for their whole life, that's been holding back their ability to be set free. And what I do is I use that very unique set of skills to find that little piece that they've been holding hostage, and we set it free.
James, that is so sexy, and that is the guy that I want to be working with.
And so yeah, like you said, like I choose to do things a little bit differently to what a lot of people do, you know, and I tend to see the things that others don't. So for example, if you come to a speaker training with me, the first thing that I will let you know in my speaker training is no one cares what you say. What? Yeah, no one cares what you say. Your words are cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Our words are such a small percentage of communication and how we speak, right? And the most important thing to remember is that the best speakers are the best listeners. Meaning it's always about what you don't say that holds the magic.
This is so true.
And that's kind of how I approach my life, and it's kind of how I approach my business, and certainly how I approach, you know, my mentoring with my clients. Is I'm always looking for what's not said. I'm looking for the information in the silence, because talk is cheap and words are easy to come by, right? And there's a lot of words out there, social media,
pretty words, really pretty words,
right? And let's face it, anyone can do it. And hey, like right now, not just anyone can do it, but a lot of these words are not even coming from a human anymore, right?
Right. That's the most scariest thing. It's
wild. It's wild. Yeah. So I guess I'm that guy when you work with me and you sit in my room, then those parts of yourself you've been holding hostage, they got nowhere to hide. We're going to find them and we're going to rip them out. And we're going to set you free.
It's exhilarating, terrifying, all at the same time. It's like I keep getting these like waves of like tingles up and down my body all at the same time. I'm like, yes, oh no, yes, oh. It's like I want that, but do I want that? Because also there's the fine print in that change though, in setting those parts of yourself free. And look, and dealing with high-end entrepreneurs, those that are at a particular level, they're looking for this needle in the haystack, and they've probably been to several places before they get to you. And I love how you put that, a particular set of skills that will go in and find that piece, that 1% piece, that bit that you know that if you could turn the light on in that room, everything would just magically change. And so it's not magical because you're actually embodying more of yourself and you're releasing that part and you're stepping more into your truth and you're holding more of your soul essence. It's not magical. It's just you returning to more of you yet. But in doing that, and then you having to take the radical responsibility of that and how things also rapidly change around you, that part can be terrifying. And exhilarating.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing about people who have already created an element of success in their life, and the thing about successful entrepreneurs who are doing, you know, $500,000, $1 million, multi 7 figures, multi 8 figures, they got a really unique set of skills themselves. You know, like they don't, as a mentor, the funny thing is like they don't need you to create success. And you really got to, I found, have that respect for people as well. So therefore, to me, it is in the 1%. You know, few highly successful people that I meet need 99% change. Like they're highly successful. They're highly successful for a reason. You know, like they got the tools, and what they rarely have, or what they really don't have, is a lot of spare time. So it's so important in what I've found to be that person who stands out and can capture that attention, bring that thing to the surface, shine a light on that part that no one else has managed to shine a light on in the shortest period of time, so that in that moment, this person can go, there's something there for me. And better yet, the change just begins instantly. And that's the funny thing about, you know, mentoring successful people, is the paradox is that most people think that when you charge more and the more successful the person, the harder it is. It actually doesn't work that way. Funnily enough, it's actually easier. Because yeah, right. It's like yourself, like you've done so much work on yourself and you've got so much knowledge. You're like, how much money, Kelly, have you spent on your self-development and your business development, do you think? Do you know roughly?
Holy shit. Yeah, I spent over $100,000 in the first year, and now I'm like, I reckon I'd probably somewhere around like 300-400K.
Right.
And
So
then you've got all the hours that you put into that as well. And then you've got all the business things that went bad that were a lesson in itself and how much they cost you. That's not even included in that.
Right. So you've got this like person like yourself who's highly successful in your world, and you've got a $300,000 brain
Yeah.
that has 5,000-10,000 hours worth of experience and tool sets behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's both often terrifying for people when they think about working with someone who has that level. But really, if you bring it back, it's actually really amazing, because the funny thing is it makes my job so much easier, because I get to lean on the fact that you've got a $300,000 brain and 5 to 10,000 hours worth of experience and all the tools in the world. So if I just give you that one tiny little bit, you will take that one tiny little bit and you will make absolute hay while the sun shines for the next 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, just from that one little bit. And that's what I love so much about working with leaders in the space, because it really humbles me to see what amazing, successful people can do with what often just looks like a 10-minute conversation.
Yeah.
It's wild. And I get to be so impressed and so in awe of my clients and the people I get to meet, like you, at what you all create. It's amazing, and that to me just lights me up. And that to me is true alignment for my business. It's like, wow, I get to be in the presence of my clients. That's like next level for me.
It's so sexy. I love that you say it, because I feel with this podcast, it's like I'm continuously in the presence of greatness. And each conversation is so profound, and they're all so different. But each time I can feel like I get the tingles. I was literally just saying, you'll hear it on the last episode, I can feel spirit talking to me. Like, it is so alive in my body when I'm having these conversations, because I'm with yourself, James, like, you're the ones helping, like, you are the leader helping other leaders create profound change, and the ripple on effect of that. Like, this is how the new earth is built. This is how consciousness shifts. This is how we raise the vibration of humanity. This is how we create a better world for us all to live in. And like, being really engaged in these conversations and sharing them, and sharing like the amazing people that we're supporting with finance, it's just making me fall in love with them all even more than I already was. And what they're doing, I want to support them more, because it's so important and it's so powerful. And talking about this needle in the haystack, and like just going in and taking that one little bit and changing it. I know that you've recently gone through a very similar little tweak like this for you that has radically changed the whole way that you do business. And you've done something so bold that I'm so keen to hear about, which is you've decided to take your whole business off social media, which in today's modern age, which is all about social media and social connections, you'd say is financial suicide. However, that has not been that for you. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and this journey, and what it's been like for you, and what that needle in the haystack was?
It's so funny to have the opportunity to be here and talk about this now, with the proof that it really works as well, which is really cool, because that's, to be honest, Kelly, like, I want to work with more people who want to take bold steps like that. It might not be the same bold step, but bold steps similar to this, where it goes totally against the grain, And so a little bit of context, I ran a company called 2 Minds Project for 3 years with one of my best mates, my business partner. And we scaled that to 6-figure months. And we were business coaching and we were running self-development events. For the last 2 years of that business, I think both 2021 and 2022, I would have spoken 150 to 200 days of the year.
Wow, that's a lot.
It was grueling, both in person and online. Like, it was grueling. It was epic, really awesome. Amazing. But and we had, we were running our socials and we were doing these different things. But one of the biggest decisions I made last year was a decision that absolutely changed my life and rocked my world for quite a while. And it was to just shut it down, because it was out of alignment for me, and although it was amazing, and we got it to the stage where we're, pulling in like 6 figures a month, no money in the world was worth the cost to my lifestyle, to my relationships, to my health, and what was the feeling of being out of alignment, and it wasn't just for me, obviously it was for my business partner as well, and even our team. And although we created, we changed many lives, and we did these amazing events, and we had, a whole, list of raving fans, there was just something that wasn't quite right. 1 degree off course for 3 years takes you far away from yourself by the end of 3 years.
So far, it's like a rocket into outer space. If that's 1 degree off, you're not leaving the atmosphere, you're exploding.
100%, 100%. And so my business partner and I, we made this bold decision to close that chapter, or perhaps close that book actually, in the best possible way with the most love. And it led us both to understanding exactly what we wanted in our lives, and certainly in what we want in a business. And for me, building World Speaker Institute this year has been one of the most amazing opportunities, because it gave me a clean slate, and to take everything that I learned from a long speaking career, which has been like for 14 years now, something like that, since I've been speaking publicly in front of masses of people. Spoke to over 100,000 people in that time across multiple industries. And to take all of that and everything that we learned in 3 grueling years of entrepreneurship and growing this business to that space, and be able to be given a clean slate where I got to do it completely on my own terms, completely for me, and therefore for my perfect client, has been one of the most amazing experiences. And the first couple of months, I still did it the way that I knew how to do it, and I had the socials and I had these different things. And then as the right clients started coming in, and I tripled my prices when I started, on my own, so that I could work with 5 times less people. Right. That's what it was about for me, because then I can really share my magic. Because, sometimes to find that piece, it takes a little bit of time. It's all about building relationships. And that's what I love. Building relationships. Number one, I love that. And that's what I'm really great at. And so what I looked at in May is I looked around and I looked at my clients who are paying me, $20,000, $30,000 for mentorship. I looked at clients who have paid me more than $10,000 and not even batted an eyelid, and will sit there and tell you it's worth every cent that they spent. And what I realized was very, very few of these clients hire their mentors off social media.
I was literally just thinking that. How have I hired people? I don't think it's come off social media either.
Yeah. So
it's been referral.
Exactly. So when you're running an ascension model, which I was in the previous business, but I'm not now, people at the beginning of their journey, it's like social media is somewhere where you go to buy when you're at the beginning of the journey anywhere. But when you get a certain way through, and you want to work with people who are doing $500,000, $1 million more, very often a lot of these people aren't searching for their mentors on socials. Right? It comes from a totally different interaction. And most often it comes from relationships being built, right? Or they see you speak on stage. So what I realized for me was that these clients, what I would consider my dream client, that client where I get to sit there in awe every session, and it's easy because it's just a conversation where they're speaking and I say a few things and then they walk away going, oh my God, best session ever. And then they go create magic after every session. That client never found me on social media. That client never said, I absorbed your content and I loved what you do. And here I am. It's seldom happened. It's happened, but nothing not worth writing home about, right? Most of those clients, they either saw me speak from stage, or they came from a referral, or it's a relationship that I built somewhere in the world by being with that person.
Yeah.
So I just realized, I was like, my core marketing pillars truly are speaking from stage, which is my forte, referrals, and just in general relationship building. And so I really looked at myself and I said, when I run my social media, I find myself thinking about it on the weekends. I find myself thinking about it when I'm supposed to be sleeping. I find myself thinking about it. It's like intruding in my thoughts so regularly that what I realized and the conclusion I came to is it's actually a distraction for me, right? Now, don't get me wrong. It took me 3 solid years, right? So we got to remember the context here, because I know there's people listening going like, I hate social media, I'm not doing it, but you're not making $10,000 a month yet. You're not making $20,000 a month yet. And it may be a really important thing for you to learn, because I can do it. That's the other thing. I can do it successfully, but I now know from all the experience that I had that it's not in alignment for me in the way I'm designing my specific business, right? And for me, I'm designing a business where I work for about 2/3 of my cash flow, and then investments make the majority of my cash flow behind the scenes and no one sees it. So I get to live the lifestyle that I want, because that's what aligns with me. So it was a distraction. So I said, you know what? In March, I'm going to stop posting. And you know, it was really weird, Kelly. And I heard this, you know, recently. I heard this recently in an audio book that I'm reading. And they said that when people's beliefs are challenged, they act like a drug addict. The same thing happens in their brain, right? That happens to a drug addict when they think they're not going to get their fix, right? So if you challenge someone's belief, the same thing happens. Then if you change someone's belief, the same thing happens when someone comes off drugs. We go through withdrawals, we go through like this shift of identity of, oh my God, who am I without this thing? We go through this detox process, right?
The integration.
Right?
I've never heard it spoken about this way. I'm so curious. Tell us more.
Amazing, right? So what I noticed in myself was I still had this belief, even though I knew and I could see the evidence for many months before that. I still had the belief that like I need to have this social media. So I had to challenge that belief hard. And then when I stopped posting, it was about nothing in that next following few weeks except detoxing myself from that belief. So I really had to, I noticed to myself how much, like, there was, for the first couple of weeks, you know, there was that urge, oh, maybe I should post, or, oh, maybe it's there. What are people, and here's the thing, right? What are people going to think? What are my successful, like, not necessarily friends, but my successful, say, acquaintances in my further network, people I don't even know even, what are they going to think when they stop seeing me on social? Are they going to start thinking like, oh, he's given up on his business? And I noticed that there was this element that I had that I didn't think that I had, or I kept telling myself I didn't have, where I really did care about what people were thinking. And it was stopping me from being in alignment. And I went, James, if you don't face this fear and you don't just do it, you're going to continue acting for others that actually have no place in your life, that you deeply don't really care about their opinion, and yet you still do. So you've got to do it. So
that's huge. I just want to pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Like that statement that you just said, if everybody was to actually hear that and receive that and embody it, that you are about to keep acting out of an alignment to please people that don't even care or maybe don't even notice you.
Yeah.
If you don't make this decision.
100%. And consciously, you know, for me, it was like, I don't care about those people, but having is evidence of wanting. You know, having is evidence of wanting. And so I went, James,
that one.
You got to drink your own Kool-Aid here, man. And you might be able to say that you don't care about these people's opinions, but you've been keeping this social media. So you do, because you have it, which is evidence that you want it, because I was worried about what they might think. And then what happened was, when I sat with this feeling, you know, and over those weeks of just sitting with it and being in it and not trying to change it, just accepting that, holy shit, you know what, I do care a bit more about what other people think. You know, there's that part of me that's actually scared here that, oh my God, like, what if I am an idiot? Like you said, right? It's like business suicide to a lot of people. Like, this stuff plays out.
It's been ingrained in us. Like,
and then when I open social media and I see all my, like, you know, friends and businesses and other people like killing it, it's that it plays out. And I got to notice this about myself. And I actually intentionally kept, not often, but, you know, each day for maybe like 10, 15 minutes a day, I'd have a bit of a look. And I intentionally did that so I could connect with that part of myself that represented that fear, to connect with that part of myself that was worried about letting it go, that was worried about what people would think, that was comparing myself to others. And I just sat in that for a few weeks. And, you know, the power of sitting in that for a few weeks and admitting that about myself, and then learning about why that's within me and working with my mentor through these different elements, just integrated that part, made me so much more whole. And I stuck to it. And it's been about 6 weeks since I did that. in fact, let me say this, from the 6-week mark from when I did it, I was on holidays for actually more than 3 weeks of that. About 3.5 weeks of that, I was on holidays, traveling around, road tripping around Australia, looking for just having fun, really not paying attention to business, like taking time off.
Mm-hmm.
So in that 6 weeks, 3.5 of which I was not even present for in the business, I was taking time off.
Mm-hmm.
I a bit over doubled my income.
That's
And
wild.
right?
Nuts.
Right? I had clients just walk through the door. I had simple meetings, right? And when I say meetings, like I was out fishing on my little boat with an ex-client who became a friend, building the relationship as I do, only to find out that this particular person, who's highly successful, by the way, multi-millionaire, amazing human, doing huge things for the world, goes, I kind of want you to just be my mentor forever. And I want to re-sign with you and I want to do like a full deep journey. And $30,000 later, like we're working together again.
Yeah.
And I just like, does that make sense? Like there was no content writing. That was just me being me, doing what's authentically true to me, which is building relationships in a really unique way. It's just different to others. Like I'm just different, Kelly. And I'm just weird. And
I didn't think you're weird. I feel no. I want to talk about this because it's not. I don't think that you're. Yes, there is definitely something different and unique about the way you connected, but I don't think it's the weird factor. I actually think it's your genuine interest, your genuine curiosity in the other person, and your genuine authenticity and your presence with the person in the moment, which has you so uniquely stand out, and it's so penetrating and piercing that you can't help but pay attention to you when you speak. And I think this, like, it's not weird. It's like you've embodied the qualities and the aspects that people want to receive from someone else, to feel deeply seen, deeply heard, deeply acknowledged, deeply understood. And this is the gift that just being in your presence that you offer. So of course they're going to be, how can I work with you? How can I spend more time with you? And I would love to know, like, what do you think it is that there's been so much about creating relationships online. What do you think it is, like these authentic relationships that you talk about and creating these relationships? What do you think the secret is to creating these, for this to work so well for you? If people wanting to explore this path, like what do they really need to embody?
First of all, I just want to say thank you. And I'm just really receiving and sitting in that beautiful, beautiful sentence that you just said about me. And I really appreciate that. And then this is also, for everyone listening, by the way, like there's a really important question I ask all my clients. What do people say about you when you're not there? How do they explain you to someone else? Right.
That's the truth, right? That's the truth of who you are.
It's the truth. And so like what you just said there, Kelly, for me is massive, because and for everyone that's listening, it's like when you're in these scenarios and someone gives you that, you need to spend the time to receive that stuff. And you need to really look at that, because that's you and your essence. That's you and your purity. It's how people see you. And you're going to find one of two things. What they're saying is deeply aligned and it really is you, or what they're saying is not really you. I remember, 18 months ago doing a podcast or being on a stage, and someone would have been talking about me and what they were saying about me, which was amazing stuff. I remember sitting there going, it's not actually me. I'm grateful and I'm receiving that, but that's actually not who I want to be. That's actually not what I would want people to say about me, to explain me if I'm not there. It wasn't authentic. It wasn't authentic in the same way. Like it was real, and it was powerful, but it actually wasn't authentic to me. Which brings me to my answer to your question. And you said it, and you said the word presence. And I promised myself that when I started World Speaker Institute, that the reason I would triple my prices and work with 5 times less people was so that I could have 10 times more presence. And building relationships is about nothing more than presence. And your ability to be present with a human is what creates an unshakable foundation for a relationship. Now, that has nothing to do with time, by the way. it has to do with how present you are during the milliseconds, the seconds, the minutes, the hours you are with those people, and whether you're with someone for a minute, for an hour, for a week, for a year, presence is relative. It's about how present you are in that time you're there. And so for me, what happened was, by making these big, bold decisions, it gave me the freedom, which apparently is the value that most people build their businesses or become an entrepreneur for, right? Which I thought I was having when I was just making like lots of money and doing what I was doing, when I didn't.
Yeah, look, being down that rabbit hole, feeling
right.
I'm sitting in the fire of that rabbit hole at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a part of scaling. Like you've got to be,
right.
be ready for it, 100%. And I know I'll be there again,
Yeah.
But the point is, I just promised myself that I'd never build a business that I'd never build a business faster than my ability to stay completely present. So if I had to sacrifice presence with my clients, with my business partners, with someone who interviews me on a podcast, if my sacrifice to be there based on my schedule or my beliefs or whatever was going on, my sacrifice was presence in that moment, not worth it. So what that meant for me was, if I look at my life and I look at who I am and where I am most present, I am most present when I am floating around on the ocean, having a fish, snorkeling, hiking, like out and about, doing something that is in the environment, because my roots are the environment. I worked in the Great Barrier Reef for 10 years. I got to cruise around. Wow. I spoke to 100,000 people about marine conservation, marine education. I'm just a kid from the bush. Like I'm from Port Douglas, Gold Coast is not my normal home. And so I am in my deepest presence, and I'm in my deepest essence when I'm in those scenarios. So can you imagine for a moment what happens when whatever that is for you, what happens when all of a sudden you bring someone in who you want to cultivate a relationship with into that space? They're now in your ultimate presence, in your ultimate essence. And the foundation for that relationship is a foundation like no other. And so that's how I approach my business. And this was the core reason why I knew, as scary as it was, and as much as I questioned myself and all that stuff, that for me, social media was a distraction, because because what I noticed is the lack of presence it gave me when not just doing it, but thinking about it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't reflect who I am. Does that make sense? And
100%.
So for me, that was the biggest thing. And presence is the absolute key. And there are, and I know you know this, a lot of unpresent entrepreneurs and so-called highly successful businesses in the industry right now, particularly in the self-development and coaching and mentoring space. There are a lot of people who are perpetuating the illusion that making a lot of money is somehow means deep presence. Yeah. And it does not.
It does not.
Money without presence.
And there's two interesting places here that you've mentioned. One about being on the water. So I also grew up on the water. Like I used to be a professional water skier up until the age of 19. So I have the same thing that happens to me with presence on the water. And one of my first return back to presence was when I bought a jet ski a couple of years ago and started going out in the water. And then like the dolphins, it's like I'm a magnet for the dolphins to come. Every time I go out in the water, the dolphins come and like hang out with me on the jet ski. And anytime I take somebody out, there's that same level of presence. And I just find it interesting that here you are in this incredible level of presence with this client, fishing with him. And he says, hey, I want you to be my mentor forever. And when you're talking about like sitting in your most purest essence, being you're not even trying, bang, the magic happens. So I find that so like amazing, yet also like, duh, of course that makes sense. At the same, and then that leads me into the next part that I want to thread in here. And I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about it, about nervous system regulation and presence. So like you were saying, there's so many people doing, look at me making this money, and look at my flashy car, and look at my holiday, and look at me with all these clients, and look at all these likes I get on my posts. And it's like this constant chasing of dopamine stimulation, this constant like, look at me doing all the things, thinking that like I'm doing all this serving. And it's not saying that these people are not serving, because they are, but like this presence, people will transform in your presence with no words, simply because of the depth of presence that you can hold because of the nervous system regulation. So I'm really curious to hear what you've got to say in terms of like noticing this, and because being on the water, there is like deep presence, connection with nature, nervous system regulation. Like, what has been your journey with this, and what have you noticed?
Oh, I love it, and I know there's someone listening to this going, yeah, but I don't want to bring people to that space where I am in my deepest essence. And here's the thing, you also don't have to, right? Mm-hmm. You just need to be going into that space regularly enough to create that presence, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And what happened in my journey with getting, with being in such a fast-paced business and making the money and all the things, is I stopped doing so many of those activities that gave me that depth of presence, and I replaced them with activities that that worked in theory, or that took less time, or that a previous mentor was doing. They became replaced with constant coffee dates or lunch dates or dinner, and that's great. And I was finding myself incredibly hard to stay disciplined around eating. So my health started to decline over time because I wasn't eating great food at home. I was out a lot. I was drinking a little bit too much coffee, and all these different things coming into it. And most importantly, I was substituting my time in this space where I'm most present for this kind of space that was good, but not freaking fantastic and incredibly aligned. And so because I wasn't cultivating that presence even outside of the business on the same level that I need it, and everyone's different, right? Like, everyone's different. And what I've learned about myself and the kind of person that I am, and for me to utilize that very particular set of skills that I mentioned, I need to spend a lot of time being very present with myself and connecting. People call, when people say, I'm going out to the forest, or I'm going out in the environment today to disconnect. No, you're not. You're going out to connect, man. You're disconnected. So let's just get that one straight. Yeah. So if I don't spend that time connecting with the environment, and cultivating that presence, then I find it makes it harder for me to use those superpowers. And can you ask your question again, just so it's fresh for the listeners here, the question that you just asked me?
Yeah, so it was around presence and nervous system regulation. So like your journey with this, and if somebody's wanting to cultivate more presence and the connection here to be able to, I do think that the more present we're able to be with ourselves, the more we can be with others. But like, what is the connection here?
And I love this. This is so funny because you actually have, what's really funny is you have no idea. You don't really have any idea what my key pillars that mostly only my clients or someone that's been in a be with session with me knows. And one of my key non-negotiable standpoints to become my client is around nervous system regulation, and how we work with your capacity to both build wealth and build success in with the evidence that your nervous system is showing us. Right.
Sexy. So, talk to me about it. I'm all about nervous system regulation.
Oh my
I'm
God.
Like, we do not pass go. We do not collect $200 unless our systems are regulated, because anything beyond that is like throwing a grenade and hoping that you don't blow up.
Literally. And look, I'll be honest, Kelly, like, I cooked mine in that 3 years in doing it the way we did it. Cooked mine. My health declined. My presence declined, relationships were not where I wanted them to be. I was not the man that I wanted to be. And what I learned, which was really wild, was that I developed post-traumatic stress from it. So what was happening for me was, and this is what can happen if you don't consider your nervous system in business, and all you do is just follow the money train, guys. Like, whoever's listening right now needs to hear this. You need to hear this, right? If you're not doing what's in alignment for you and you're not giving yourself the space to regulate your nervous system and doing those things, and you're sacrificing that just to make money, it has bigger consequences than you think. So what was happening for me was I'd been doing it for so long in a way that was just slightly not right, that added a little bit too much stress for my nervous system to be able to process, that I created post-traumatic stress and a full-on post-traumatic stress response. And that manifested in what felt like and what came across like a chronic neck injury. And so I just stopped training. So it's like I was already, training less than I usually would and not eating as well, like I mentioned. But then I was doing a handstand one day and something slipped to my neck and I just felt like I popped a vertebrae.
Oh, wow.
What is going on? And I was in pain and I couldn't do anything. And I had to stop training for about 7 months. And I got it checked out and I got it x-rayed and I did all the things. And the same conclusion came back, which was there's actually no injury there. I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, you have every symptom like there's an injury there and the pain is there and I couldn't lift heavy things and it was like it was there, but there was actually no physical injury there.
Wow.
And so I was, I healed it to a point where like I was able to, exercise a bit more and move a little bit more, which then left me, a little bit scared to exercise just in case it happened again. But then I was also just getting regular pain, like almost every day, this pain in my neck. Money would come into the account, like good money. Like I'd go and make a bunch of money and I'd be in so much pain. I was like, what is going on?
Interesting.
I'd sit in a a workshop with like my business coach or with another business coach or something like that and start working on the business and start working on the expansion plans and doing the things, because I had a team also doing a lot of the coaching and a lot of the delivery for me, working the business, and I'm in pain and I'd be in pain for days. And then not just that, but I would go and do something that might strike fear. So I might like go surfing, started to get back into surfing, and I'm paddling out there and I'm just in pain. And then I'm in pain for days later. And I'm like, what is this? What is this going on? And then I went to this amazing physio this year that my beautiful partner, Hillary, found. Who's really well versed in energetics and chakras, as well as stress. And basically what he made me realize was that I was just exhibiting the exact same symptoms as someone with PTSD. PTS.
Wow. Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder for those that are, what's that? Yeah.
So then to the point where, it really, I then became so aware of it and I was like, oh my God, every time I start getting fearful, every time a little bit of stress gets put on my nervous system, my neck is in pain and I've got to go lie down and I'm cloudy brain.
Wow.
And it's all false pain. It's no injury. There's nothing there. It's just false pain. Wild stuff. And so to change that, it's been a long journey of learning how to reverse post-traumatic stress and recognizing that this is the cost of choosing to put your nervous system last. And nervous system regulation is so important, because what happens is the stress first might have come from, fast-paced business and hustling. But then every time I put my body under stress, whether that in any scenario, like I said, surfing being one of them, it would trigger the same thing. So we are humans. We have stress every day, so for the body to go into a pain response every time you get stressed, it's really tiring. I can tell you right now.
It's exhausting and painful to feel like there's a tiger chasing you at every turn.
Literally, right? So this is what plays out for so many entrepreneurs. And by the way, I want to make this known, a lot of people, when they hire a really great mentor or when they're in the presence of a really great mentor, or someone who's highly successful, they look at them like they've been given this, like they just have, this talent that no one else has and they're born with this thing. I just want to make this really clear. The most successful people and the people with this unique set of skills, as we said, they're also the biggest idiots. Right? I have no trouble calling myself, like I will say right now, if you do mentoring with me, I'll be like no other mentor. We will do things, we'll find things, we will shift things that you never even knew existed that no one else can shift, right? And it's amazing, and I'm good at what I do. Oh my God, Kelly, I am also the biggest idiot. The mistakes that I've made
Oh, me too.
Fundamental, right? But I know on the other side of it that the perspective that I've gained from that and the skill sets that I've gained to be able to add to the lives of people who are caught in the hard work paradigm, entrepreneurs who are caught in the make money, money is success paradigm, and who are putting their nervous system last, without me having gone through that and developing the methods and the skill sets and the perspectives to help others either avoid it or get out of it themselves, I wouldn't be who I am today. So I'm the biggest idiot. I make all the mistakes, and I know you do too, right? You mentioned it earlier. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And that's also the mark of a high performer. And people need to hear that as well. Like, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but you've got to understand it is part of becoming an expert at what you do and becoming highly credible. So I just
100%.
wanted to really, I wanted to remind people of that piece.
Yeah, well, usually there's a question that I ask usually a little bit later in the interview, and it's how many failed businesses before this one. So I think that you've already brought it up. I'm just curious because this is what happens. People do look at their mentors and they get starry-eyed and the pedestal, but what they don't get is we've just got really comfortable with failing, and we failed. There was Brent and Molly, who I interviewed in the very first Lifestyle Finance show episode. There was something Brent said. He's like, you could just got to learn to fail forward. It's inevitable. Just fail forward. So like until you got to this place, James, like what's the trail of businesses that didn't work so that we can normalize this, because it is normal. And then even once you do get the working one, there's going to be failures too.
I'm gonna add something really important to your question, and it's important because it gives a lot of context to why people get caught in why this paradigm is such a pandemic right now.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the third business, right?
Only the third.
The third business. But it's like you said, it's about getting used to failure, right? There are failed relationships, there are failed friendships, there are failed jobs, there are failed health journeys, there are failures in every aspect of my life before that are paramount here. And if you want to know why, perhaps the previous business, and by the way, we're calling it failure, and obviously like it's failure when you're in it, and then it's success when you're out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the previous business that we shut down, right? What failed me there at the time, at the level I was playing at, was my current at the time capacity and ability to understand relationships and to be the man that I needed to be able to support my business partner, my staff, most importantly, my partners during that same time, right? So in this new business, what's allowed me to recognize so much and grow so much, for example, was the redirection of my focus, not on making money, because I know how to do that, but on relationships, on deepening my relationships. My core focus, Kelly, and for everyone listening, is to be the best possible boyfriend for my partner, Hillary, that I can possibly be. And
I love that.
Once I become the man, once I truly am the man that I want to be inside of our relationship, then perhaps I will, put even more focus into making more money and different things like that. Like, I'm making great money and make more than enough, but my core focus is my relationship with my partner, because it's taught me more than any business coaching program, than any journey in business. It's taught me more than anything in a shorter period of time. And if I can cultivate that relationship and I can learn to take the level of responsibility as a man that I need to take to be in my mature and in my divine masculine as often as possible, which ain't easy, right? If I can learn to be that guy, then everything in my life actually just becomes easy. The fitness becomes easy. The health becomes easy. Making money becomes easy. The coaching becomes easy. Does that make sense? It's like,
yeah,
we're all working for love. No one's working for money. It's just some people haven't figured it out yet.
It's so true.
And in working with a lot of and having the opportunity to work with multi-millionaires, and having a vast network, I've also recognized that the one thing that most of these people want that so many of them don't have is love and partnership. And it takes serious focus and time. You know, if you think about the focus and time it takes into you know, going from nothing to building a 7-figure business and how many years that takes. Well, a business is a complicated system, meaning it can be learned and replicated. A relationship is a complex system.
And unique to every individual.
Exactly. It's always and forever changing. It can't be learned and replicated. Only elements of it can be. So the amount of focus and time it really takes to master relationships is so much more than it takes to master making money, to master speaking, to master business.
They're all replicatable systems, predictable, replicatable systems
that have no feelings, right? Like one of my greatest financial mentors, who's, you know, put $9 billion worth of finance strategies through his company in 30 years. You know, one of the greatest lines that he says in his seminars is, "Your numbers have no feelings, you do." You know, and a business is just numbers at the end. It doesn't have feelings, but your partner sure as shit has feelings. I hope I can swear.
Absolutely.
Right? They sure as shit have feelings, and so do you. And that creates such an incredible complexity. And without presence and time and focus
and patience
and more responsibility than most people can imagine that it really takes to become that person and sit in the divinity of the masculine or the feminine, let alone just the mature, right, in the masculine or the feminine, to be able to sit in those more often than not, it is a real full-time job. It takes a lot of practice. So for me, that's become my greatest priority. And what I realized was, because that's the thing I know my heart, my soul desires most, and behind all the layers, the reason that I work, the reason that I am an entrepreneur, the reason I do my business, behind all the layers, the missions, the global contribution is also, it's about love. You know, it's about love. So
me too. I deeply resonate. It is, but even if you look at a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they build the things because they think it's going to get them love.
Exactly. And then I see the level of competency in relationships that they have with another human. You know, teenage level.
Yeah.
Like, you've got these entrepreneurs making millions. The one thing they really want is someone to share it with, but once they get into those relationships, it's like teenage level competency.
Yeah.
So everyone's different, you know what I mean? Like everyone's gonna sacrifice something. What I'm sacrificing right now in the short term is a multi-million-dollar business, right? Multi-million-dollar cash flow, to become a master of myself in my relationships first. Because I also know, like, the cash flow comes, and like I said, I only want to work for a third of the cash flow, and my investments make the rest anyway. So I don't, you know, multi-million-dollar businesses aren't always, you're not always working for the money that you're making, and that to me is true success. You know, it's having that time, because I know if I build a business like that, then I can always be present with my partner. So as the complex relationship changes and we change, I've got the presence to stay active and be able to work within that. You know what I mean? And it takes time. Like, so again, like, when I look back at the failed businesses, I make no mistake that the reason that particular business was that book we closed, and that book had to end, you know, and now I'm writing a new book, which is the new business, was because it served its purpose to the level of competency that I had in relationships, and to create the aligned business that I have now and work at the level that I want to work at with the kind of people that I want to be present with, and which equals solving the problems that my perfect client has, which, funnily enough, a lot of the time is presence in their relationships, because they know how to make a lot of money and they've done it before, but they're taking this moment in time to go, okay, I want to learn from you how to make sure that I cultivate this relationship before I go ahead and build another empire. or build my empire even bigger, right? That's one of the core problems. So I was like, well, if I don't take the time, like they're not coming to me to make more money. They already know how to do that. Does that make sense? Like they're just creating a glass ceiling. They might be sabotaging their growth past that point because their soul wants love and presence in relationships. So when we unlock love and presence in their relationships, they just go ahead and use their already amazing skills. And I might give them a few things and then they scale and they build an empire. It's like wild how it can happen, you know?
It's so
and then
huge.
With some of my other clients who are, you know, making $100,000 and they want to scale from there, what's beautiful about that is I have the opportunity to help them build those foundations early on. So rather than going hard at you know, like on the 7-figure train that so many people are in on this, my clients know that we're going to have a look at the evidence that your nervous system is showing us before we decide what's sustainable and ecological for you. And so what happens is a lot of my clients, it's like, I can teach you how to make 7 figures this year. I can teach you how to sell $100,000 from stage. You know, I've sold $300,000 in 35 minutes from stage. I can teach people how to do that. Like it's possible. And if your nervous system doesn't have the capacity to expand that rapidly, you will sabotage it.
100%.
Right. And I said this to some prospects recently on a call. I said, you're both at the point. So it was actually a double call because I do 1 to 2s sometimes if they're at the right level. And I said, you're both at this level where your permission for wealth, your capacity is at 120,000 a year. You know, you can do 10K months. Yeah. And based on the last few years, right, the evidence of your nervous system shows us that if we add too much extra money to that, you're going to get rid of it and you're going to return back to 120 grand. And I said, if I gave you both $1 million today, right? Just like if you Google what happens to lottery winners,
yes,
right? $1 million today, you'll both do a couple of smart things with it. But the thing is, there's a high chance that you will get rid of 80 to 90% of that money and you will come back to 120 grand. Maybe it might come to 150. But if I give you that $1 million today, your nervous system has not learned to be able to expand so rapidly to hold that energy, right? And I said, but if I give you guys $1 million over the next 10 years, and I give you 100,000 this year and next year and the year after, your nervous system, based on the evidence that we can have a look at in your history, like your family, who you are, your previous jobs, your nervous system can hold that capacity. And what you'll do with that extra 100 grand is you'll probably end up keeping another, like at least 80% of that. So that's the funny thing, right? And then over 10 years, I've given you $1 million, but you've now kept 800 grand of that and you've put that to work and made more money. Whereas if I give it all to you today, your nervous system's going to freak out and you're going to get rid of it. Nervous system is crucial, and every single one of my clients, we look at the evidence that their nervous system shows. So at my multimillionaire client, it's relative. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can give him $1 million, for example, and he's going to invest the whole thing because his nervous system is used to moving that amount of money around. He's been holding it for long enough. Does that make sense?
100%.
So it's all relative, and we all need to know this about ourselves. And this is one of the big things that you rarely hear about in the coaching industry. And I am so happy you brought this in. I love you so much more than I already did. Just from you bringing that conversation in, like raving fucking fan.
Oh, me too, James. I was curious to see what you were going to do with it, because this for me has been the key piece of everything falling into place. Because I had also done all of the coaching stuff and all of the mindset stuff, but there was something that wasn't calibrating. And I would always create in like polarizing dichotomies: falling in love, losing my best friend, having my best months ever, getting hit by a car, all the money going out the other door, like just constantly like this. And there'll be like success and failure all like simultaneously happening. So it's like my poor little being feeling so many like conflicting things all at the same time, and then being like, why? And then when I realized it came down to nervous system regulation, I started doing like fortnightly somatic experiencing. And then it was literally like somebody took my body and my brain and plugged the two together. And then the growth has been rapid. and accelerated, like to the point of like a whole like roller coaster, like hold on, but also at this place that even though like in the past this would totally blow out my system, yet now I have the capacity and the tolerance to hold it at this space. And even though like I'm aware of my edges are, I'm also aware of what my tells are. Like if I stop breathing, it's like, okay, you're starting, this is your first stress sign, start breathing, walk away. Like there's lots of like little things that I now know when I'm starting to go into activations where I can de-escalate really quickly to create that expansion and tolerance where my bandwidth is just so much greater. But it took time to get the vagal toning on my vagus nerve to actually have that stretch in. And these are conversations that I keep bringing into this space because people think it's more mindset stuff or it's more strategy to get there, but it's not. You need to like come into regulation with your system because that's the dominant vibration that you're putting out to the universe, that you're creating everything from. If you want to change your physical reality, you have to change your vibration, and changing your vibration isn't the mindset into this and the that. It's actually changing the electrical impulses you put out, and that's coming into nervous system regulation. And that's the conversation that's not being had. And I personally truly believe that is the secret. That's like, this is the next wave of what's coming through in personal development and ascension and growth. And if we want to hold more of our higher selves and our divine essence and our truer selves, then we need our electrical circuitry to be able to handle the high potency of that frequency. Because if it doesn't, it's like putting a high voltage charge through through an electrical system and the circuit's short out. It's like, what? So this is where, but this isn't what's being talked about. And when you talk about seven figures, my best friend and I, Gabby Kowalski, we call it the 7-figure dragon, chasing the 7-figure dragon, because that's what they do, but they just blow themselves out. And you watch people like 7 figures bankrupt, and it's like, why? Yeah, I hope that you're watching this on YouTube to see James's face through that. It was brilliant.
I'm just like, because I'm all about this. Like, this is the conversation that I have every day. My partner and I have this constantly. Like, I have this with my clients every week. And I'm just so excited to be in the presence of somebody else who's so passionate about it, because it shows the change, right?
Yeah.
It shows the direction that things are going. And I'm so with you because, and so in speaker training, part of understanding that no one cares what you say and talk is cheap is understanding that as a speaker, the best speakers, it's not about what we're saying, it's about what we're transmitting.
Yes.
And like you said, right, everything's an electrical current. And inside of that current, the waves that live within that current, right, the up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, that current, those waves are telling a particular story. It's a set of information. Yes. And so if you can give people great strategy and you can coach people on amazing things, and they're going to create big change. But inside of that same transmission, right? If you're out of alignment, if your nervous system is cooked, if this shit's playing out for you, you've got to know you're also transmitting that information to that client. Mm-hmm. And I believe in a world, and I don't see, the thing is like, I don't coach now. I'm not building my business now or coaching now based on what I want my clients to achieve or the difference I want them to what I want to see at the end of the year, like 6 months from now. I don't care. Yeah. Every day I'm thinking about who are they going to be in 5 to 10 years time, right? When we have a world of coaches in 5 to 10 years time who are truly ready to deal with the new set of problems that have occurred. And so I believe so deeply in this because for me, I'm here to do my part to create leaders who are the leaders in 5 to 10 years. And this conversation to me is a conversation that cannot be left out. And it's a conversation that I believe will be at the forefront of the new world leaders, right? The nervous system regulation is so crucial because we have no excuse anymore. Because all the science and all the evidence is out there.
And our problems that the world is facing today is because of the nervous system dysregulation, because that's what's been driving creation.
Can I give a really great example / testimonial for you, right? Yes. And this is where, this is why I signed up to finance and why I was so happy to find you and the way that you guys do everything. Because what happened was, and like I said, every client's different, right? Everything's relative. If I've got my multi-million-dollar client and I put that client on a retainer of $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, it's there's no nervous system worry there, because the amount of, again, the capacity is bigger, the amount of money that moves through the accounts is normal. That's a tiny percentage of what flows through, right?
Yeah.
But a client of mine who's earning 100K a month, right, 120K a month, who I'm taking to 240K a month, right, where we will basically want to double their income in the next 6 to 12 months. Well, that client has a very different capacity, right? And they come from a space where making 100 grand a month is not something they've ever done in their life. It's like, whoa, you've just cracked into this new capacity. So the reason that finance is so revolutionary in my coaching has got nothing to do with anything but nervous system regulation for me. So I encourage my client. I was like, I know I can put you on a retainer of 2,000 a month, 3,000 a month, and that's going to be great. However, I'm really also aware that your nervous system is going to respond to that in a way that there are complications that will be created that are unnecessary. So let's put you on finance instead, right? So that we can reduce your weeklies, your monthlies, to a point where your nervous system is still aware of it and it's still challenged by it, but it's not dysregulated, which means that my client shows up in full form every session in full capacity. They're not stressing and worrying about this massive payment plan that I created that is ruining their nervous system, that's making my job as the mentor harder. That's idiotic. And on top of that, they get to learn about tax reduction, investment debt, and what it's like to borrow. Because what happens is, for my clients who work with me, say for 12 months, and most of my clients work with me for years anyway, but I want to be there when they buy their first house. I want to be there when they buy their first major income earning investment. That's a part of the plan that we put in.
Yeah.
So they need to realize that if you want to become an investor, you need to look great to the banks. You need to look great to people you want to go into either business with or perhaps borrow money from. And if you don't have your ducks in a row and your expenses aren't low versus the income that you're bringing in, and you're a tough person to borrow to, you're actually affecting your future more than you possibly know. So my client not only comes in and has a regulated nervous system, but he also gets to learn about what it's like to borrow money, what you need to ensure you do in your business to look like the best possible candidate, which, as you know, as a business owner, even when you're earning a lot of money, it's really hard. It's actually hard. The banks would prefer someone who works for someone on 100 grand a year versus someone who's making $500,000. It's really different.
It's so weird. Like, if you're receiving the pay slips, no problem. But if you're the person providing the money for those pay slips, they look,
they're like, oh no, you're out. And it makes, and isn't it funny?
Makes no sense.
Because the bank knows that the freaking person paying the person, their nervous system might be cooked, and they might not. They're a way higher risk. And it's really, actually, this is beautiful, right? We know that the reason the bank sees this as a high risk, the reason that being a company owner has become high risk, is because company owners have a tendency of cooking their nervous system and being erratic. So this conversation's come full circle in the most amazing way.
Hasn't it?
Right? And so that's my testimonial to you. It's like, you're allowing me as a business to help my clients keep a fully regulated nervous system, learn about tax minimization, investment debt, borrowing, and it's making them not only a better person and a more stable person, meaning that they go into their relationships with their partners every day a better person because they're not stressed about money. They go back into their sessions because they're not stressed about money. Like, their transmission that we spoke about before is far more embodied. But you're also allowing these people to learn about literally becoming an investor in their future based on understanding debt, because obviously debt is a massive nervous system dysregulator.
It's a huge activator. It's like,
like
talk about like feeling trapped or shame or scarcity or it's huge. There are so many money stories around it, whereas, like, the truth of the matter is, anybody who's wealthy has at some point borrowed other people's money, invested it into something that's going to give them a far greater return in terms of like 6-7 figures than the couple of $1,000s of interest they pay over here. And it's absurd that they don't join the dots, but they just see fear.
And most wealthy people, like, want will use someone else's money over
their own. Take the risk with somebody else. Yeah,
100%. Like, totally. So yeah, like this is a amazing conversation, and these are angles that you just so rarely hear in the industry. And I'm so glad you're out there, like with your podcast, and you're connecting with people. I'm so glad you're spreading this message en masse. And for everyone that's listening, you know, it is my belief that this conversation here is the direction through which the self-development and the business coaching industry is moving. And if you don't get in front of this now, you're going to get left behind big time, because we got no excuse, right? Like the data's out there, the science is out there. There's people using AI, meaning that you don't have to work anywhere near as hard as you used to. If you're not thinking about your nervous system right now, you are far, far behind, and you're certainly not contributing to any raising or elevating of human consciousnesses if your nervous system is constantly raised and elevated.
Right. It's just a frequency mismatch. Even now, when I'm looking for mentors or my next people to work with, if they're not having this conversation, not interested. Because this has become, the cost of this not being the foundation of everything I do was far too great. It felt like life and death. And that was like that point of being like, holy shit, like I want better for myself. I love myself more than that.
It's funny because before I knew all of this about you, it explains why intuitively I free flowed referrals to you. Yeah. For everyone that's listening, I just filled Kelly's inbox with referrals like straight away. And it was an intuitive response, because I don't do that very often anymore, because I'm like you, I'm very cautious now. Like I
hadn't even got any runs on the boards for him, and he's like, here's my client, and here's my client. I'm like, are you sure you don't want me to wait to get some results for you? And he's like, no, I'm a sneezer. If I think you're awesome, I will tell everybody. It's my gift. And I'm like,
and I'm in alignment, and I'm in alignment right now. So I deeply trust my intuition, because it doesn't just tell me every day. I'm not just out there like handing it to everyone. Like I vet people. I'm very cautious about it, you know, because I'm like you, like I know what I stand for, and I'm making a specific stand for what I stand for, but also against what I don't stand for. And when I say against what I don't stand for, it's not that I have any problem or anything like that. I'm not out there. I'm not out there, you know, like hazing anyone or anything.
No, there's no polarizing us versus them. It's just I don't engage.
I'm just not going to send you clients. Simple as that. Get on board or that's it. Like, I'm just not going to send people clients. That's all right. I'm just focused on what I'm doing. And that's dropping social media for me has been the greatest thing, because I'm so much more focused on my direction and embodied in my direction with that as well. And then it means I just attract more people like yourself, or as we spoke about in our pre-conversation, I create more people like you, because everything we're focusing on, we're creating, you know. I don't believe anymore that I attract clients as much as I believe that I create them. In fact, I create everyone in my life.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're segueing into this, because I was about to do it, but there's so many things where I'm about to segue. You just naturally, organically go there. But let's talk about this, because we were, before we jumped on, talking about like creating from alignment and attracting from alignment as opposed to creating. There was a word that you gave me that I actually wrote down, which was memorandum of understanding, which is what you create all of your clients from. And I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about this. Just before we do, though, I've been wanting to take a moment to acknowledge you for this, because I think for all the women out there who are looking for conscious men that prioritize their relationship first, to hear what you said earlier is like porn to women. A man who is actually prioritizing, can you hear me in the background? Prioritizing his relationship and love and connection, and being who he needs to be for that to thrive first before anything in business. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you for that, because I know there's a lot of women, self-included, being like, I know there's conscious men out there, I just haven't seen many examples of them. So, but to hear somebody who is also so deeply passionate about their mission, but putting that in place first, I really want to acknowledge you for that. And also, like, for all the women listening, they're out there. Here is one. He's taken, but here's a perfect example of they exist. So I really want to acknowledge you for that on behalf of all the women looking for conscious men. And my other question, let's talk about creating clients. And
I'm just going to receive that for a moment.
Okay.
I'm going to say a really big thank you. And I'm going to say to the women, and it's why I'm a mentor, because I'm helping create more. I promise. And also just the proof, like, she's real as well, right? So just to make sure, like, we're listening on a podcast here, like, you know, like, it could just be full of shit.
We've got video evidence she's real.
Beautiful. She's the most beautiful woman on earth. Back to your question.
Yes.
What was your question?
My question was, we were like segueing into this, as opposed to attracting from alignment, consciously creating by design, and this like memorandum of understanding. You have like this 4-page deep memorandum of understanding that you create everything from, which is why your creations, there's so much precision around it. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. This is a great conversation, and I guess everyone's getting a little bit of free. You're all getting a taste of one of the core sessions that you would do if you were one of my clients, right? And I do this very closely with my one-on-one clients, because it's so important, and actually with my groups as well. So number one, rather than attracting clients, if we start to shift our paradigm and look at it like we're creating clients, we're creating partners, we're creating our friends, we're creating our relationships, we're creating everything in our life. Right? Then there's a level of responsibility that comes with the word creating that doesn't come with the word attracting. You know, does that make sense? Like, can you feel it?
100%. You can feel it. Creation is, I'm a powerful God, goddess, source energy, creating intentionally. Attraction is, oh, look at what happens.
And it kind of presupposes, right? If you're attracting, it presupposes that you've already done whatever you've done, and now you're attracting. So it's like after the fact. Whereas when you're creating something, it's before the fact. That makes sense? So it allows you a different perspective on how you view these relationships, whether they're clients, whether they're partners, whether they're friends, family, whatever it might be. Because it allows you to, it's like you're actually at the start here. It's like, oh, I'm going to create this. So in that moment, you take responsibility from the beginning, right? Because you're doing it for creation's sake, not like, oh, I'm this now and that attracts this. That's a bit harder.
Cause and effect.
It is cause and effect. So we use the word creating, and I can't take credit for it. I read a really great book called The Prosperous Coach and an amazing book called The Ultimate Coach. And they speak about creating clients inside of there. And I had already done a process in my new business, and I'd already gone through my own process before I heard that word. And that word really just made so much sense why what I do and the way I did it worked so well, right? And this idea of creating. And I create my relationships and I create my clients because I ask myself, and I mentioned it earlier, right? I ask myself very deeply that question: how do people? It's two questions really. Number one is, how are people explaining me to others when I'm not there? And then the second question, the second question to that, drink of water. The second question to that is, how do I want people to explain me to others when I'm not there, right? And we'll do this in the context of business, because we get to contextualize this in different ways. But in the context of my business, as I was building a new business, like I said, I had this beautiful clean slate to work with. I said, how are people currently? So for a couple of months before I started the new business, I was actively inquiring and talking to my audience and observing, what are people saying about me when I'm not there? Like, how do they explain me, right? And I was checking what's in alignment, and how does that align with how I want people to talk about me, so that when people talk about me, it in that moment creates the very client that I want to walk through my door. And it was very simple for me. I wanted people to say this: he's really expensive, but he is so generous. He's so expensive. He really charges, right? Like he charges a lot, but oh my God, he is so generous. He is more generous than you can possibly imagine. That makes sense. That's all I wanted.
Sexy.
That's just what I wanted people to say about me, because the moment you have such a paradoxical explanation where it's like, oh my God, what? You're really expensive, but you also all you do is give.
Yeah.
all of a sudden people go, huh, that's interesting. I've got to know more. Because we all want that for ourselves, right? We want to see that reflection in ourselves. And that's all we are, really. We're just big reflectors, you know, and a coach is just and I want my clients, by the way, to charge a lot of money and give more than anyone else gives.
Yeah.
So hence why I want to create clients who, when they walk through the door, they're already that person who must plan to charge a lot of money, earn a lot of money, but give so much more than they make. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And
Can relate.
and so within that, there's information, right? Because that's the vibration, right? So if we think about it back there, like that's the vibration. You've got like the two polar ends, right? The positive and the negative, the paradox, right?
Yeah.
It's like makes lots of money, so it's just like taking, but gives so much more than everyone else, which is giving. So it's a polarity. And polarity means that you can have electricity, right? Because without polarity, there's no electricity, a positive and a negative. So I look at it like that and I go, great, what's my positive? What's my negative? Yep, we got that. So then inside of that is the information, right? It's the electrical spark. It's that spark that people receive when they hear that. And so for me to understand and be conscious of what is within the information that travels through that electricity, what I sat with, and it wasn't instant, by the way, it was me putting that out there and then receiving feedback from the market, from my clients over a couple of months. And then one day I think I was driving, I don't know what I was doing. It just started flowing in, right? It just started channeling through me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get to the computer when I get home. And I got to the computer and then I sat down and 4 pages of this memorandum of understanding just came out, right?
Wow.
With a new set of values, a new mission statement, and all of those things, right? And inside of that is the information that travels through that vibration, through that electricity that others give when they speak about me when I'm not there. And it is bold and it is ruthless, right? The first line, I am not cheap. If that is a problem, I'm not for you. It is bold, it is ruthless. And it explains within that who I am and the kind of person you must want to be able to work with me. And so rather than being written as an inclusive document, it's very much written as an exclusive document, right? And I love this because exclusive is an interesting word in this aspect because it's twofold, right?
It is.
Because
I know where you're going to go.
Yeah, I'm intentionally excluding everyone that I don't want to work with. But that therefore makes it exclusive for those who I do. They're my people. And if I do that and I'm bold enough to do that, and I'm bold enough to go against the grain and stand in my integrity and do it exactly the way that I am, then when I give my magic to those people, my magic goes further and further and further and further as far as it can go. Whereas when I give my magic to the wrong person, to someone who's not aligned, it fizzles. We all know that. Yeah. So this ability to control your spark or let me rephrase, create your spark is within everybody's capability. So I knew what I wanted people to say and I allowed the feedback to come back to me, and then it just came through me like it was coming from somewhere else, you know, and I sat there 4 pages deep, and I come back to it and I adjust it and I move it, right? It's my declaration. And that is the information that gets handed over whenever someone's out there talking about their mentor, James.
It's sexy. And even like there's a few people that I've been in connection with that have been working with you, and it's all within the polarity of that. And for somebody who is thinking about working with you, like that in its own is worth $30,000 to be able to create that level of spark for yourself. And hearing you say that, I received myself as like, that's who I work with. They're expensive, and they are incredibly generous. And I spend so much time with all of the business partners from when I'm connecting with you to see whether like we're a fit to work together to use my services, to when I onboard you. I spend this level of depth and time because if you're going to be expensive, I want to make sure you fucking deliver, because I'm not going to put somebody into debt to work with you if you don't deliver. I don't want anything to do with you. There is enough narcissists in this space that will not help you. And I even have $1,000 fee for me to even have that conversation with you to get this set up. And look, there are other brokers in this, and I've had this, even one of the people that you referred to me, they was like, what's the difference between you and these other people that say they specialize in education finance, but they're not going to charge me anything? And I was like, you'll see.
I love that. And
why they pay you $1,000 when I can get it over there for free? It's like, well, you'll see. And they came back 6 weeks later. So
exactly.
Can I onboard with you? Yes, you may.
I can testify to that because I think in the past, like we'd been involved with 3 different finance companies in the previous business. So I'm very aware of how other finance companies in the industry operate, and I can tell you right now, it ain't the way you operate, Kelly. Mm-hmm. Like they can all do a lot by hiring you as a mentor to show them how to run a proper finance company in the coaching industry, because the level of presence that you guys have, the attention to detail, the how fast you act and how far you go for the clients is massive, let alone your vetting process at the start, which is absolutely crucial. The experience that I've had in the past with other finance companies, just not cool. Cool. You know, they talk a big game, big promises, but you know, there's a problem with overselling and under delivering in this industry, and now I definitely have a nose for it.
Yeah, me too. You can pick it. Like there's just certain questions that you ask and that you can just tell. It stands out. It's like, no, sorry, I don't think this is going to work for you. I'm not the person.
Yeah, and I've for context for anyone, because I really want whoever's listening, and if they're on the fence about it, like I really want to drive this home. Like I really want to give you some really mad props here, because what you're doing is really great, and you guys really are amazing at what you do, and I really value it. And the difference between you and other finance companies isn't in the care at which you take. From a really simple standpoint, from a bottom line standpoint, it looks like this. The very first time that I was involved in a finance company, and it's a finance company who's worked with Tony Robbins and big names like that, right? And I was like, oh wow, this is going to be really cool. I had one of my clients working with them, and we sold $100,000 worth of finance finance applications in an event.
Yep, decent.
And every cent of that 100K was lost because the finance team took no action, didn't get back to the people, took ages to respond to them, didn't respond to them at all, and $100,000 walked out the door because it took, weeks to find out that there was just kind of like no one there. They were knocking and no one was opening the door. And that to me was really bad.
It's terrible, but it's not uncommon in the industry. It is not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. And that, as you can imagine, and anyone that's listening, how would you go if 100 grand of your sales walked out the door because someone that you're in partnership with doesn't follow through, right?
Yeah, it's devastating. You work so hard, not just like you work so hard to get them into the event, let alone to say yes at the event to the next part of the journey. Like it's blood, sweat and tears, sleepless nights. Like when you're in launch mode, it's intense.
And it's scary for the client too, like these clients who are investing over $20,000, like it's scary. Like they need support is really important. Do you know what I mean? Like I make no mistake that investing that amount of money for a lot of people, particularly when they haven't done it before, is scary. And support and nurture through that process is an absolute non-negotiable. And it's a non-negotiable from all parties involved. and that's why I love what you guys do. And that's why I, continue. And I've got more people, and I need to do, actually, this is reminding me of, there's a couple more messages I'll need to send, but this is why I love it so much, because there's the care and support on your end that's absolutely crucial in this process. And it's just crucial in caring about humans, because people are making big steps in their life, and even, investing $5,000 is still that for some people is like investing 100, and it was for me once upon a time.
Me too.
I remember how terrified I was when I first invested 25,000 in a coach, but I had to pay $2,000 a month, and it was like the most stressful thing ever. It was crazy. Yeah. And it's, you need that nurture and you need that support. And that's definitely what sets you all apart. And it comes back to the nervous system regulation, because you value it, Kelly. You've created infrastructure inside of your systems that other finance companies do not have. And that provides something for the client that people aren't necessarily even seeing, right? The nervous system regulation and the infrastructure you have to ensure that, genius. You're a genius. And congratulations to you, and thank you for bringing that into the industry. And that's why you're going to have my support, and my client support for that matter, and my network support for that matter.
Thank you. And I so receive that, and I value so much that you see that, because I've spent years refining this and making it better. And I listen, if you guys tell me something sucks, I will do everything in my power to fix it, to make it better, because for this exact reason, like, there is a journey. And when people are saying yes, there's like that bifurcation friction point where they want to step into the new world, but it's kind of scary, and then you can just hold their hand, and like, so that they're getting the same level of love and support on your side as they do when they step into our world. It's so important. And like, I never meant to have a finance brokerage. I'm a coach at heart, so of course I'm going to bring all of this into it. So it's like, I'm a coach who has a finance brokerage, so of course it's going to be this kind of flavor. But I love so much that you see that. Thank you.
You are so welcome. You are so very welcome. Yeah, it's wicked. It is a new world. It is a new world product, and I hope that everyone that's listening is really downloading the gold that's in this conversation. There
is so much gold in this conversation. So tell me, James, if I'm somebody listening and has just been like peeking off this, because there's so many words, like, I can, all the body tingles, that I could feel me peeking off of this. So if I'm peeking off it, I know that listeners are going to be peeking off it as well. If they want to get in contact with you, to work with you, to find these needles in the haystack, to create these memorandums of understanding, like to create that electricity between like how other people talk about them, like, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you, since you're not on socials?
And so my socials are active, and I use them for messenger purposes. So it's actually an easy way to find me. So you can find me on Facebook. If you look up James Balog, Balog, you can find me on Instagram at World Speaker Institute. Or you can just send me an email at worldspeakerinstitute@gmail.com. Either way is easy for me. I'll be cruising, checking the inboxes, and I operate under this notion that if I'm for you, you're gonna find me no matter what, right? And if you can't find me, then I'm not for you. I'm in the process of getting these really cool business cards made that say James Balog. I have a very particular set of skills, and then you flip it over, and it says, you will find me, and that's it.
That's great. Oh, James, I love everything about this. And I'm also going to make it really easy for you to find him. And all of these links and websites and social addresses are going to be all over this episode. So you can literally just click and find him and his particular set of skills. James, it has been a pleasure and an honor. And I have just thoroughly enjoyed every aspect of this conversation and felt so much joy. I think I'm absolutely going to have you back at some point further down the track, because you're amazing, and there's just so much magic in there. Thank you from my heart to yours. And yeah, for our listeners, if you have loved this as well, please share it. Share James, share his magic, share his particular set of skills, and help people find him. Because if you got value from this, I can absolutely guarantee others will too.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Kelly. And I was going to say, can we do this again, like in 6 to 12 months time? It'll be so cool to add.
Let's check back in on the growth.
Yeah, let's do it. This has been Fantastic. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening. If you're still here now, then I feel like you're going to get some serious change from this. And it's always such an honor. Keep up the amazing work, Kelly. You freaking rock. I'm going to keep sending you so many people. Don't you worry about that. And
amazing. Thank you. Me too. You too. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and go have fun with your gorgeous girlfriend.
Yeah.
All right. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Finance Show. If you loved this interview, please feel free to share it, because if it made a difference to you, it will absolutely make a difference to others. And if you are a coach, healer, or mentor, and you'd like to explore getting finance set up for your business so you can get paid in full from day one and financially support your clients in a far greater capacity than just your in-house payment plan, head over to my website, www.lifestylefinanceco.com, and follow the prompts so we can explore this further. Big love, beautiful soul, and thanks for the support.